Hi there, in this short video we're going to briefly look at some of the capabilities within the Labelbox platform to help us explore, understand and extract insight automatically from a large corpus of text data. For the purpose of this demo we'll be dealing with this sample data set of 50,000 data rows, each containing hotel reviews, both positive and negative. The first thing I want to do is talk about how we can curate relevant subsets of data within Labelbox. So within the catalog product, we have the option to filter a given data set based on a range of different criteria, such as any annotations, metadata that's attached, projects or model predictions. The first thing I want to show you is natural language search. So natural language search makes use of vector embeddings that are automatically generated for each data row when they're rendered in Labelbox. We can search for semantics such as interior design, for example, and we can increase the overall similarity threshold to begin to curate a subset of our data. Here, for example, we're dealing with 2,700 data rows. And you can see here there is no direct mention of interior or design in this particular data row, but the overall semantic theme is similar to our search. So it's not keyword search. We do have the option if you want to find specific text, but NLP search allows us to look for overall themes. If this is of interest, we could go ahead and save this as a slice. And a slice just allows us to save the various filters that we apply, and as and when we want to return to this, we can easily return to that subset of data. And indeed, if we choose to upload more data to Labelbox, any data rows that match the filters at the top of a slice will automatically be filed into that slice. So it allows for ongoing curation in a productionized environment. Now, if I just navigate back to the dataset, another alternative approach to curation would be similarity search. So you can search and select a few anchor images, and then you can go to the similar to selection option at the top. And as before, this is making use of vector embeddings of our data rows to find those that are most similar to the anchor images. And again, you can tweak the overall threshold to begin to arrive at a subset of the data rows. As before, we could save this as a slice. So these are two possible ways where we have somewhat of an idea of what we want to search for. A third way is cluster view. So if we have no idea what is contained within our text corpus, we can go ahead and generate clusters. Clusters use unsupervised modeling to cluster our data rows based on the similarity of those vector embeddings. And the idea here is that we could see some well-formed clusters begin to take shape, and we can dive into those to understand what is contained within each. So this can take a few moments. I'm going to pause and join once the cluster has been created. So now our cluster view has been generated. We can begin to see first off the bat that we have quite a spread, and the topics are not all that clear in this particular example. Where you have clearly defined topics, these clusters will separate, as you can see on these sort of edge cases. Now, in terms of to understand what sits within, we can begin to draw a bounding box around each, and we can step through each to understand what the common theme is here. Here it would appear that everything is sort of relating to the size of the room or the facilities. And we can do similarly so to understand what sits within each of these. Straight off the bat, this is all around Barcelona, it would seem. So we can see how we can begin to understand what sits within and use this unsupervised approach of data exploration to begin to understand what topics sit within our data set. Now, once we have an idea of what is contained within our text data, we will want to define what it is we're interested in labeling about our data. So to do so, we can navigate to the Schema tab and select the Ontologies tab at the top. An ontology is what we at Labelbox use to refer to the set of features that a user is interested in annotating, either manually or automatically through model-assisted labeling, about their data rows. Now we can create a new one, and we can see all the various media types that Labelbox supports, but in our case we're dealing simply with text, so we'll select text. We can name this something relevant. And then we can begin to see the different features that are available to us. So objects are entities. For example, I might be interested in a location. I might be interested in a person. Classifications, I might be interested here in sentiment, and obviously there's only going to be positive or negative in this case. And I also might be interested in the topics that are being discussed. And unlike sentiment, I can have multiple topics being discussed here. So I could go to checklist. And this could be the size of the rooms, the location, value for money, interior, say interior design to try to differentiate it from the size of the rooms, the food, maybe the customer service, so on and so forth. So you can add as much or as little as you want to fully customize your ontology. And the relationship is a relationship between our objects. We will avoid it for the purpose of this demo, but just to note that we can capture relationships such as person owns location or person in location, etc. But for now, let's go ahead and create this ontology. So we've now defined what it is we're interested in annotating. Let's go ahead and begin to automate the extraction of information, which we can do using Foundry. So we can navigate to our dataset again, and we will select just a sample of data. So there are various options available to us here. We can select all to get all 50,000, or we can select individually. However, for the purpose of this demo, what I want to show is Smart Select. So Smart Select gives us the option to randomly select a given number of data rows. I'll select roughly 500 in this case. And we can select those at random, or we can select them based on clustering. So I will base it on clustering. You can define, if of interest, the number of clusters that we want, but I will go ahead and add sample to selection. So I've now got roughly 500 data rows selected. I will go ahead and predict with Foundry. And Foundry allows API connectivity to some of the state-of-the-art foundation models that are available to us. As you can see here, you have, say, Gemini Pro, GPT, and in addition to those that are hosted as standard, if your organization has any custom models that they wish to deploy within Labelbox, we can support that through our custom model offering. Please talk to your customer support team. However, let's go ahead and select GPT4 just for the purpose of this. We'll add our ontology, and by default, we will generate at Labelbox this boilerplate prompt for you. If of interest, you can tweak these prompts for any additional information. Maybe you want to provide guidance on what each of your features is, for example. However, for the purpose of this, I will retain this standard prompt and I can generate previews. Now what Generate Preview allows you to do is to generate the predictions from the model on a sample of up to 5 data rows. You can see how the model is performing, and you can iterate your prompt or any hyperparameters at the bottom that are necessary. But as we can see here, we're getting a fairly reasonable output with the standard prompt. So let's name this run, and we'll submit it on all 500 plus data rows that we have selected. We can navigate to our notifications tab, where we can check the status of our run, and wait for it to complete in a few minutes. Now that our model run has been completed in a little over 2 minutes, we can navigate to that model run within Catalog. So we, at the top, have filtered within Catalog, and we're now in a position to view the output. So we can select each data row in turn, and on the right hand side we can see the outputs from our model run here. So we can see the topics that it's been tagged to, and we can see the overall sentiment. In places where they have identified, say, named entities, those are also shown, and we can extract those if of interest. So we have our model predictions, and the next thing we might want to do is to see how we could pass these potentially to human annotators for validation, or in some circumstances we may just be interested in extracting those predictions straight away and using them downstream. However, to complete this demo, I'll just show you the Annotate project. Let's create a new project, again, text, hotel demo, model assisted labeling, so human in the loop. Let's go ahead and add the ontology that we had created previously. And now our project is configured and ready to add data. So let's go back, let's filter to our model run here. There's the 500 or so data rows, and we can select all of these. And now we will send these to Annotate. And we'll include our model predictions, making sure to select the correct model run. We'll get confirmation of mapping, which is simply to say the ontology from our model run matches the Annotate project, and we can batch these. And it can take a few moments for our data rows to be successfully passed in, but once they are, we will see them in the To Label option. Now, if a labeler were to step in and begin labeling, they would be faced with the following annotation pane. So on the right hand side we see the raw data row, and on the left hand side we see our ontology populated with the pre-labels from our model run. In the event that we had not completed a model run in advance, this would be blank, and an annotator would have the ability to simply go through and add annotations, for example, as we can see there. So on and so forth, but we can similarly delete these, and they could add additional options as well, so on and so forth. Once they're comfortable, they can submit it and move on to the next data row. So, quick demo, but hopefully gives you an idea for how you can begin to curate and understand your data, as well as either manually annotate it or accelerate that annotation process through model automation and pre-labels. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you found it useful.